Recording in progress.
Good evening, colleagues. If everyone could take their seats, please. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council. We are being both audio taped and videotaped. Remotely right now, I have Councilors Humphrey and Kalis. I'm going to recognize Councilor Lucas to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get started with first call. Councilor Lucas?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Just a quick preview of events. We have what I anticipate will be a relatively light docket this evening. We're going to do our first call, and then on second call, we have the Berto item, which was chartered last time by Councilor Gentile. I anticipate we're going to have amendments to the Berto ordinance offered by both Councilors Gentile and Councilors Albright. You all should have seen copies of those. Certainly, Councilor Gentile's was in the packet. I think Councilor Albright's was circulated earlier today. I will venture to say they are, while welcome, they're not going to change anything in a major fashion. So I'm very hopeful we can take them up fairly expeditiously. The second items on second call relate to gas lines. My understanding is we're going to postpone those two items this evening till our first meeting in January. I know Councilor Leary is looking to give some more information in the next version of the packet relating to those items. And after consulting with her, felt it would be best if our law department and others had an opportunity to fully prepare those materials so we can all be better informed when we do have that discussion. So with that, we're going to go to first call. Councilor Kelly for the Land Use Committee, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Land Use Committee met on December 10th. And we took item number 333-24, which was a request for a discussion to consider the historical importance during special permit process, and that item was held. Number 423-24, a request to allow 3 attached single-family dwellings at 15 Algonquin Road was approved 8-0. The next 3 items were held. Number 479-24, request to amend special permits at Charles River Country Club at 483 to 655 Dedham Street was approved 8-0. We then had 5 requests for Class 2 auto dealer licenses. They were all approved, 7-0. Docket numbers 485-24 for luxury motors, number 486-24 for old time garage, number 487-24 for auction direct pre-owned, number 488-24 for Yes Auto Sales Group, and finally number 489-24 from Mag Retail Holdings, all approved. And that concludes my report.
And there's no public hearings tonight, which is a rarity
Are you
for this
shocked?
committee.
No public hearings to declare. Thank you.
So I'm going to recognize Vice Chair Oliver for the Zoning and Planning Committee, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report begins on the bottom of page 300. There's one item to report from our December 9th meeting. That is item 456-24, CPC recommendation for the appropriation of $98,500 in CPA funding. That item was approved 7-0. And with that, I'll move the report.
Thank you very much. Next, Programs and Services Committee Chair Krinsman, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The report begins on page 301. Programs and Services Committee met on December 4th.
Item 451-24, this was a request for a discussion of aging in Newton, a community needs assessment performed by the Older Adult Services, Department of Older Adult Services and the Council on Aging. Was voted no action necessary, unanimously 8-0. Item 461-24, authorization to appropriate and expend $2 million to Newton Public Schools. Item was approved unanimously 8-0. Item 462-24, this was authorization to appropriate and expend $300,000 to the Newton Public Schools. Was approved unanimously by a vote of 8-0. And then lastly, item 473-24, the reappointment of Despina Felice to the Biosafety Committee was approved by a vote of 8-0. With that, I would move the report.
Thank you, Chair Krinsman. Chair Grossman for Public Safety and Transportation, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report begins on page 301. The committee met on December 4th. The first item, 376-24, requesting a presentation and discussion with the MBTA Advisory Board, was voted no action necessary, 8-0. Item 436-24, requesting a new public auto license, and this was for Tom Mountain, was approved 7-0. Item 437-24, requesting renewal of a public auto license for Michael Gimmelfarb, was approved 7 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention. Item 438-24, requesting the renewal of a public auto license for Lassène Bellouche, was approved 7 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention. Item 439-24, requesting the renewal of a public auto license for Donald LaPlante, was approved 7 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. Item 440-24, requesting the renewal of a public auto license for Don Raj Mahasi, was approved 7 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. Item 441-24, requesting renewal of a public auto license for Rajiv Kumar, was approved 7 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. Item 442-24, requesting renewal of a public auto license for Vasif Valley, was approved 7 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. And finally, item 443-24, requesting the renewal of a public auto license for Abdurrahman Fella, was approved 7 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. With that, I move the report.
Thank you, Chair Grossman. Chair Albright for Public Facilities, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first 5 items are on second call, and the last one is item 467-24, request to appropriate $997,942 for the Union Street main drainage extension, and that was approved 6 in favor, none opposed, 1 recusal. And I would move the report.
Thank you. Chair Gentile for Finance, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The finance report begins on page 307. The first item was jointly heard. Community Preservation Committee recommending an appropriation of $98,500 in Community Preservation Act funding for a grant to the West Newton Cinema for a feasibility study regarding the 1937 historic movie theater. That was approved 7-0. 459-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend the sum of $119,984 from the Massachusetts Office on Disability for accessibility improvements at the intersection of Watertown Street and Chapel Street. That was approved 7-0. Next item is 460-24. Your Honor, the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend $33,333, which is the amended amount. We cut the 33 cents. Anyway, of the total $100,000 in transportation mitigation funds from the 15 Riverdale Ave development, consistent with the demand management plan set out in the comprehensive permit. This was approved as amended 7-0. 461-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $2 million from certified free cash for math curriculum in the Newton Public Schools. Approved 7-0. 462-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend the sum of $300,000 from, again, June 30th, 2024 certified free cash to improve the phone systems at North and South High Schools. Approved 7-0. 463-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend $75,000 earmarked from the Commonwealth of Mass Office of Travel and Tourism for improvements to Pellegrini Park. Approved 7-0. 464-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept and expend a $50,000 earmark from the Office of Travel and Tourism to develop a master plan for the Officer Bobby Braceland Playground. Approved 7-0. 465-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to transfer and expend $27,500 to settle a workers' compensation claim. Approved 7-0. 466-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to expend the sum of $10,000 for a full and final settlement of a claim. This was approved by a vote of 7-0. 467-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $997,942 and authorize a general obligation borrowing of an equal amount for the construction of the Union Street main drainage extension. That was approved 7-0. And the final item is 471-24, Her Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $5,000 in transportation mitigation funds from the Green Lady Marijuana Establishment consistent with the Transportation Demand Management Plan set out in the special permit. And that was also approved 7-0. And with that, I would move the report.
Thank you, Chair Gentile. Chair Danberg for real property reuse, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's no report.
Thank you, Chair Danberg. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll? I will also note that online we've been joined by Councillor Leary, in addition to Councillors Kalis and Humphrey. Go ahead, please, Madam Clerk.
Councillor Albright.
Aye.
Councillor Baker.
Aye.
Councillor Bixby.
Aye.
Councillor Block.
Aye.
Councillor Danberg.
Aye, with the exception of numbers 396, 397, 398, 399, and 419-24, on which I vote no.
Those I believe are on second call.
Call, I believe. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, those are in second call, Councillor Danberg.
I rescind the vote. Thank you.
All right. You can vote later on if need be. Go ahead, please.
Councillor Downs.
Aye.
Councillor Farrell.
Aye.
Councillor Gentile. Councillor Getz.
Aye.
Councillor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councillor Grossman.
Aye.
Councillor Humphrey.
Aye.
Councillor Kalis.
Aye.
Councillor Kelly.
Aye.
Councillor Krinsman.
Aye.
Councillor Leary.
Aye.
Councillor Lipoff.
Aye.
Councillor Lobovitz.
Aye.
Councillor Lucas.
Aye.
Councillor Malachy.
Aye.
Councillor Mickley. Councillor Oliver.
Aye.
Councillor Wright.
Aye.
President Laredo.
Aye, with the exception of 467-24, which I asked to be recused.
Motion carries 23 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, with the exception of item number 467-24, with 22 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, and 1 recusal.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to move on to second call then. I'm going to recognize very briefly Vice Chair Oliver regarding the Berto ordinance, which was chartered last time. If you could just maybe take 30 seconds to remind us where we are with it. Then we're going to take up the amendments. I'm going to recognize Councillor Gentile first, and then Councillor Albright second. Go ahead, please.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. So before us tonight, again, is BERDO, my favorite 5-letter acronym of the year. So we are looking at the version of BERDO that only requires reporting for residential, and it requires reporting and then modifications for large commercial buildings. This was chartered last time by Councilor Gentile. I understand that he has an amendment to review with us that has been reviewed prior to today with both the legal department as well as Mr. Ferguson. I understand there's another amendment coming from Councilor Albright, both of which will address portions of the creation or the process by which we create, or I should say the city creates the regulations. And I believe with that, I think I've kind of in the past mentioned anything else or covered all the other topics. And hopefully tonight we'll have a clean conversation and be able to vote this out. Fingers crossed.
Terrific. Thank you, Councilor Oliver. I'm going to recognize you, Councilor Gentile. You have the first proposed amendment.
Thank you. I want to first start just by thanking folks that voted last time to the courtesy of giving me a chance to get more information on what is an extremely complex proposed ordinance. And I also want to thank Mr. Ferguson, who spent a considerable amount of time with me on a couple of occasions, bringing me up to speed on the ordinance. And one of the reasons that I asked for a little extra time is that I was surprised at the number of direct contact I experienced, either by voicemail or emails, texts, even more so than last year at this time when we were talking about the MBTA Communities Act. And what I mean by that is from not just the emails that we get that, you know, are addressed to all 24 of us, but I was hearing from some individual folks, a lot of them, you know, business people, commercial real estate and so forth, and I didn't have a lot of information for them, which is why I wanted the extra time. So anyway, spent time with Mr. Ferguson. I do plan on voting for this tonight. The amendment that I believe you have all received, it's pretty straightforward. I knew that what we're being asked to vote on tonight, as Mr. Ferguson calls it, is a framework, and that a lot of the particulars will be decided by the BERDO administrator along with the committee that has been set up in the ordinance. And there's a lot of work to be done. So the ordinance, the amendment that I have proposed, you know, simply says that when the advisory committee working with the administrator, when they have completed their work and they have the proposed regulations, I am just asking that there'll be a meeting with the city council so that the city councilors can be brought up to speed as to how this is going to work. It'll give us a chance to ask some questions in a committee of the whole format. And if we wanted to maybe make a suggestion as to how the regulations could be improved, it certainly would be okay to do so. But as the last sentence states, I want to acknowledge, and I'm not trying to change the fact, that the regulations are to be established by the administrator in the advisory group. And that we are only getting, this meeting is only for the purpose of further educating us, because there's a lot of decisions and of items that are yet to be established. So, as you can see, excuse me, the ordinance says, do you want me to read it?
I think we can all look on the screen.
Right.
The language is in front of us. I think that will be helpful. Counselor Gentile, for anything further, or would
No, I would just like to move the amendment. I understand that Council Albright also has an amendment, and if I were to be asked, I would consider it a friendly amendment if you want to take them up at the same time, if that's what all Council Albright
Why don't
wants
we
to
do this? Let's get a second for your motion. Counselor Albright seconded the motion. Counselor Albright, do you want to offer a friendly amendment? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So reading Counselor Gentile's amendment made me think about the fact that regulations on the state and federal level usually have a 30-day comment period where anybody with expertise or with a stake in the issue has a chance to comment to the Berto, in this case, the Berto administrator, and tell their feelings in support of the whole thing or in pieces of it or against whatever it is they might want to say. And I asked Mr. Lee, Attorney Lee, to write me up a sentence about adding a 30-day comment period, which would happen simultaneously with the 90-day period of just when the meeting happens. And he did that. I hope you had a chance to see it, and Councilor Gentile is willing to accept it, I believe, as a friendly amendment.
So that's a friendly amendment to Counselor Gentile's motion. Do I have a second for that? Second. Counselor Oliver, second. I caught that one first. All right. So we have, let's vote on the motion to amend as amended. Can we do this in a voice vote, Madam Clerk? All right. Why don't we do it on a voice vote? All in favor of adopting the amendment, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Any further discussion then on the main item? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll on the main item, please, as amended.
Counselor Albright.
Aye.
Counselor Baker.
Aye.
Counselor Bixby.
Aye.
Counselor Block.
Aye.
Counselor Danberg.
Aye.
Counselor Downs.
Aye.
Counselor Farrell.
Aye.
Counselor Gentile.
Aye.
Counselor Getz.
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg.
Aye.
Counselor Grossman.
Aye.
Counselor Humphrey.
Aye.
Counselor Kalis.
Aye.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Krinsman.
Aye.
Counselor Leary.
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff. Counselor Lobovitz.
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
Aye.
Counselor Maliki.
Aye.
Counselor Mickley. Counselor Oliver.
Aye.
Counselor Wright.
Aye.
President Laredo.
Aye, and I'm going to ask, I know Counselor Lipoff just stepped out of the room, so before you do a final tally, let me just offer some quick thank yous. I want to thank in particular the leadership of the Zoning and Planning Committee, Counselors Baker and Oliver, the entire Zoning and Planning Committee, our sustainability team within City Hall, and there's an array of folks, some of whom are sitting out here today, who are instrumental in helping put this together over a lengthy period of time. I'm going to defer from naming names outside the council, but your work is tremendously appreciated. I know there was a lot of time that went into this. There was some compromise that went into that, which is often the case when we pass legislation, particularly new legislation. But I'm personally very pleased to see this have such broad approval. And Councilor Lipoff, I want to make sure you get a chance to vote.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, go ahead, please.
Motion carries 23 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent.
All right. Thank you all very much. We have one other item. I'm going to recognize Chair Albright for Public Facilities. And go ahead, please, Chair Albright. Actually, 3 items, but we're going to take them up at once.
So actually, there are 5 items.
Oh, 5 items.
Yeah,
We're
they're
still
all-
taking them up at once.
Yes, so we'll take them up. I guess I should just read the numbers into the record.
Please do.
It's 396.24, 397.24, 398.24, 399.24, and 419.24. These are all grants of location and from National Grid, and they're all about repairing and mostly replacing pipes under several of our main streets. I'll just tell you briefly.
Could you speak into the microphone just a little bit
Yes.
more, please? Thank you.
I'll just tell you briefly that we did have National Grid represented at this meeting, and they were very helpful. We had a public hearing, and many advocates expressed their desire to hold these items. We did ultimately vote to approve them, but I believe Councilor Leary would like, I spoke with her briefly before the meeting, and she would like us to postpone this item because there were some materials that she wanted to put in the packet about these particular grants of location. And if that's all right with you, I'd like to move that we postpone this item until our next meeting.
Postpone it to our first meeting in January, is that the request?
Exactly, yes.
All right. We can do this in a voice vote, colleagues. All in favor of postponing to our first meeting in January, which is January 6th, if I'm not mistaken? Please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. That is the end of our meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn, Councilor Lucas?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, this is our last full meeting of the calendar year. If we do not see others until then, I'm going to wish everyone good holidays, a happy new year, and we're back to, we still have meetings this week, not to forget. Councilor Baker, did you want to add something?
Just, the year isn't entirely over without another meeting of zoning and planning on Thursday night. So you all don't feel
That's
bereft.
good. Yes, Councilor Albright.
So I just want to remind people, just that we do have an important public facilities meeting on Wednesday night with the appointment of a new a new commissioner for DPW.
And Councilor Kelly.
Not to be forgotten, but we have land use tomorrow night, too, so please come join us.
All right. So our work is almost never done on this city council, but with that, we're adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.